Are there really any businesses that always succeed and vice versa? Are there really types of business that always fail? Neil and I have been watching a lot of YouTube videos recently, and there seems to be a sort of theme that there are certain business types or sectors where you'll always have a profitable business, and vice versa. There are certain ones which you should always avoid because they'll always fail. But is it really as simple as that? In this video, we talk about whether there really is a formula to work out, whether certain businesses will always succeed and always deliver a profit, together with what, in our view, are some of the key questions you really should be asking yourself before getting started in business. Welcome back to the Basics of Business channel, everybody. And today, Neil and I are discussing whether there are certain businesses and certain business sectors which always succeed and certain ones which will always fail. And as I say, watching a lot of videos recently, things like restaurants, dog walking are things to avoid, childcare are things that will always succeed, etc. You know, you've been advising business for a long time. You probably advised thousands of them. Is it really that simple?
No. I mean, we all know successful restaurants, and we all know restaurants that have failed.
Yeah.
So I don't think it is just on that. I mean, I think some of the videos we've been watching, they've been talking about some of the issues around what makes those sectors more challenging. But again, I think, as you said in the intro, it's about what questions should you be asking yourself before going into any business, so that you make sure that you have a better chance of a successful, profitable business, whatever sector that may be in. I think they talk about the restaurants being, there's low barrier to entry, there's high capital costs, there's things like that that make it not right, but that depends on the style and type of restaurant you want to do. I think one of the things.
But you advise restaurants in terms of, and you advise very successful restaurants. I'm sure you've seen others that haven't. What's been the difference that you've seen between the ones that have been successful and the ones that haven't?
I think there's several things. One is making sure that your offering appeals to the clients that you're hoping to attract. So, when we've done our videos on the things you need to do before you start a business, it's market research.
Yeah.
So the restaurant that you're looking to open in whichever area, what's the competition like? What are the, who lives and works in that area? What's the clientele? Is there a demand for the sorts of things you're going to do? I think that's one thing. And then the other thing is making sure you have the right capital. So many businesses start up and are undercapitalized, i.e. they haven't got enough money to properly open the doors and properly start. And so they're always playing catch up, and they're making decisions based on that rather than making decisions based on the actual business itself.
And into your dog walker as well, she's got a very successful business. And I'd say the point of it, there is a low barrier to entry, but for us, it's probably more a lifestyle business, but it's a good little business.
Again, I mean, I one of the videos we watched, they said dog walking was bad, but childcare was good. I mean, what's the difference? If you're going to set up as a dog walker and walk round, the parks in your area with 3 or 4 dogs all day, then yes, there is a low barrier to entry because anybody can set up as a dog walker. But if you're giving a good service and whatever, they talk about, you're just creating a profitable job. But that might be what you want to do. That might be sufficient. Not everybody wants to run 100 restaurants or a massive empire, internet. No, everyone wants to be the Gordon Ramsay or Jamie Oliver or whatever. They might just want to be, a chef patron or whatever, and just running a restaurant successfully in their business, in their town. Does that make it an unsuccessful restaurant? Has it failed because you didn't roll it out and you haven't got 6 in Dubai and 3 in Hong Kong and all that sort of stuff? If we take dog walking, I've got a dog, And originally he was picked up in a van at 7 o'clock in the morning and taken off to a big field somewhere over in over near the M25, and he stayed there all day, and they brought him back at the end of the day. Now that business is much closer to a childcare nursery than our current dog walker, who she turns up, takes him out for a walk and brings him back
which she's done this morning.
Which is done this morning. But actually she now employs a couple of people as the business has grown. Is that more successful than when it was just her? What is success? The definition of success for her might just be having the freedom to be outside all day, walking around and earning a living, as opposed to the definition of success for some of the videos is, you've got to be, you've got to have a unicorn, and if you're not Elon Musk, you failed. Yeah.
And that sort of, I think, brings us neatly on to what we would say are the key questions to ask, is in terms of, and that key at the top is, what do you want?
Yeah.
Number one, as in, there is nothing, if you want to create a profitable job and it's successful and it, as I say, profitable, I would say it's always good. If it is profitable, that is always good. Secondly, what are you good at? And therefore that sort of leads on, what is the easiest business for you to set up? So, I mean, it's all very well to say childcare is a great business, a great business model, repeatable revenue, etc. However, if you've got no experience and probably no interest in looking after children, it's not a great business for you.
No, and I think that's, there'll be people out there who'll say, well, I'll invest in it and I'm going to be involved in that even though I'm not going to run it. And I think that's where a lot of them are coming from, is that I'll set up childcare because you need to be Ofsted registered and therefore there's a barrier to entry. So once you're in, it's much more difficult for people to come and get control. But you can, as an individual, become Ofsted registered, and you could be looking after 3 or 4 children in your home as a registered childminder, whatever. How's that different to the dog walker versus someone who's got a nursery that takes 100 kids in? And then has a chain of nurseries around the whole UK and has got 100 nurseries, each one taking 100 kids in. They're all in the childcare business. But why is one of them successful, or that's the one you should go for, versus the person who is at home looking after 3 or 4 kids, making, hopefully enjoying what they do and making a decent living. And I think that's what comes back to, the 3 aspects for me of any business or any business owner and any founder. The 3 sort of drivers usually for people is income, capital and control. So most people set up a business for one or all of those 3 things. And depending on you as an individual, which one of those wins out is more important, will determine how you might structure your business and how you might view whether your business is successful. So, is generating an income the most important thing for you? Is generating some capital asset value appreciation most important for you? Is having control over the business, over your life, important to you? And it's an element of all 3 of those is what drives people to build businesses. So yes, if you want to create just a profitable job because you want to earn an income and you want to have control over the business and your own life, being a one-person dog walker, and you like being outside and you like dogs and all the other stuff, like, what do you want, what are you good at, then you would be saying, hey, I've got a successful business.
And then there's a 10-year, say a dog, 10-year tenure, so that's a 10-year income, and I don't have a dog, you do. It's a big decision probably now to leave her, given it's
Not a hope. Dog goes mad when he sees her and goes for his couple of walks with her each week, and there's the chances of us moving away from her is very, very low.
And then too, if I think of, like, from a nursery example where my daughter was, I think there were 12 kids in there. But there were siblings obviously that came. The nursery, she didn't have to do any marketing because she looked after the kids, and literally there was like a stream of people wanting to get their kid in, etc., just because they knew they were looked after, and she didn't have to do anything. She just, as I say, it was either siblings or recommendations, and her nursery was full at the 12 level, which is what she wanted.
Yeah, and definitely childcare in this country is a hot topic at the moment, and there's lots of people going into that, and there's a high demand of it. I worked with someone who opened I think they got 96 places nursery in London last year, and there's a waiting list was 8 months before they opened. They had a waiting list of people, and within 8 months of opening, it was full. And they're looking at opening a second one a few miles away from the first one. That should be opening in about 4 months' time, and they've got a waiting list for every place. Is that they're oversubscribed. Now, some of them may not take the places and everything else, but that just should, so I agree, childcare is a very hot business at the moment, but there are issues in that you've got to be Ofsted registered. That isn't easy. That you've got to have, if you want to have 96 children in one building, there's lots of things you have to do to be able to do that, and lots of people you have to employ and everything else. So
but there's no reason, those are probably great, there's no reason why that's more successful than the 12 kid nursery, as in.
Well, it depends what the owner. It depends what the person who founded it.
And then how those.
If your nursery person, when they founded it, they wanted a chain of 8 within 3 years because they wanted to sell it and make a big capital gain and set themselves up for life. They're looking now thinking it's unsuccessful because there's only 12. If they set it up with the view that, and I don't know enough about the sort of Ofsted registration, but maybe 12 is a limit, that below 12 you can do certain things, above 12, and again, there are limits about the number of children per employee, depending on their ages and all that sort of stuff. So there might be a sweet spot of 12, and it might be the next sweet spot is 48, and then it is 96. There might be balances that make that work, but if that person set up a business to say that's the limit I want to go to, hasn't taken on hasn't taken on a massive lease, hasn't got can't sleep at night because they're worrying about how they're going to pay the rent rates and all the other things, actually got a lovely business earning decent money, in control of everything, it's a successful business to them. For the guy who wants to have a chain of 100 with 100 kids in each and he wants to sell it for £1 billion, it's not a very successful business. But that's, your perception from your outlook on life.
Yeah. So briefly, before we go on to talk about some other business types and sectors, please hit the like button if you're finding this video useful. Thanks for doing that. Really is a big help for us in terms of assessing whether this content is providing you and your business value. And Neil, in terms of with 20% of new business failing within year one, I think it's 50% within 3 years. It would be nice if it was just as simple as pick this sector, pick this business type, and it'll always work, whatever. As we know, it's not like that. But there are things you can do, thinking of those examples which have been thrown up about don't do it because they'll always fail or they're very hard. If we think like closed shops, I think was another one. There are mitigating things you can do or ways you can start. Again, using our key questions of what do you want, what are you good at, etc., to help you decide. There are things you can do in these areas to make it easier and start to work out whether it will work.
Yeah, and I think so clothes shops, retail, there's lots of things around about the high street these days and how that's going to go. But if a fashion retail is the business that you want to, you're interested in, it's what you enjoy, it's what you're good at, that doesn't need to be a bricks and mortar presence on the high street with quarterly rent, monthly rates, having to have staff and be there and lots of stock and all the things that take up working capital for that business. You could be in a fashion retailer online. You don't need to have a big overhead, a big cost money tied up in stock and premises and things. So I think that again is, does that make it a bad business? Again, if it's just you at home with a storage facility and you're doing some things online via Amazon or Etsy or whatever it might be, yes, that may not be the sort of thing that, Peter Jones on Dragon's Den is going to say, it's scalable and I'm not going to, that's fine. We're not asking you to invest in it, actually. Thanks very much. We're just setting up this business or this profitable job, whatever you want to call it, because it's what I enjoy doing and I can make an income and I will have control of my own life, and building a business to sell it for lots of money is not important to me. So capital, one of the three, isn't relevant. And I think that can apply with, you take restaurants. You can, if being in the food industry, supplying that is your passion, and for a lot of chefs and people it is, you don't have to have a very expensive fancy restaurant or any premises at all. These days there are food halls, there's festivals, there's food trucks, there's all sorts of different ways that you could be in that industry that is a success for you. I worked with a FD of a business that had several bars in and around London, and they had a sort of vanilla offering for food people. So it was like, if you want to come in as a street food vendor, you had a kitchen in their venue. They had 800 people turn up to use the bar, and there were half a dozen food operators supplying food to that. And there's several of those around these days. But the offering, you could, that's a very low capital intensive, low risk way for you to get into the food industry. See if you can make an income. You've got a good element of control over your life and very little capital investment. Also, very little opportunity to sell that on for a lot of money. But again, it depends which one of those three or is the most important to you.
And similarly in clothes and retail, and so, there was a business I knew and got to know the founders, and they'd created this sort of social media through, I think it was Box Park and Shoreditch, and they'd got a bit of a following going, and they used that to sort of generate some sales online purely initially before they opened their first shop.
Yeah.
Just as a way of sort of mitigating risk. For I don't think they could afford they didn't have the capital to open a shop initially.
Yeah.
But they generated a real buzz around these pop-ups around their brand to give them a stepping stone to get to the first shop when they opened it, which was fantastic. So say, just for the purpose of the discussion of, you do want to build something big, etc., and you want to really scale it, and obviously for that typically you need capital. There's a big control side element to that you've got to be well aware of.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a video on funding your business, and it's sort of, as we say, the more you take and the more money you need to build your business, the more information, influence and control people will want, the more they put in. And I think it is a very different journey if you are trying to scale a business, in the likes of the Dragon's Den type thing. You're taking on money because they are only investing to have some sort of exit event. And I think that on its own is a real mindset difference. You've got a passion for a certain industry, you've got a skill for it, you want to be doing that as a business, that's what you love, and be lucky enough to get up every morning and do something you really enjoy. But if you take money in from a private equity group or venture capitalists or whoever, they are only investing because in 5 to 7 years' time, they want to sell their equity and make a profit. And so they are going to be wanting decisions made with that as the overriding context. How can we grow as quickly as possible to then float, sell to another equity group or trade buyer or whatever? But that is very different for the founder, who's then having to make decisions, be answerable and everything else to people. purely around how are we going to exit in 7 years' time, then 6 years, 5 years, 4, as you get closer to it, it becomes even more intense, as opposed to, well, I want to make the offering better, more, the creative side is why I'm involved or whatever. And so it is a very different journey. And I think that income capital control is, they are linked. If you haven't got deep pockets yourself to fund a business and scale it, and you're going to take money from professional equity investors, they are only investing because they want an exit.
Well, their model is not necessarily aligned with what you're aiming to do, because they have a clear agenda. And it's, as I say, if you are taking on capital, there's that con to it, if you want to say that.
Absolutely. And trying to grow too fast is often a reason why businesses fail. And there's a list of things that Dragon's Den where they've missed out on opportunities because they didn't think the business was scalable, or they didn't think it would work, and the people have gone on and done really well. And there's plenty of businesses that the Dragons and many other people will have invested in thinking this was a business that can't fail, and subsequently they fail. So there is no
there's no easy there is no sort of cookie cutter of you sort of stick a list into sort of ChatGPT and go, give me these lot will always work, these lot will always fail. Every business can work, every business can fail, and you just got to be clear on what you want out of it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'd say it. The Dragons will look at success and failure different to how a founder would look at success or failure most of the time.
Yeah. So if you are looking to start a business, the 10 questions we have that we would urge you to run through before you get started, please go out and check out our other video on that. That's it for this video. We hope you enjoyed it as ever. We wish you every success in your business journey. And I say we hope to see you in another one of the videos if you punch one of those boxes on the screen.